Well, hello. Welcome to another episode. This is going to be all about the 10 Commandments. And I remember watching some videos on YouTube about Ray Comfort, sometimes known as the Banana Man, and Kirk Cameron from the TV show Growing Pains. I actually heard him speak once, and they do this whole thing that if you break any of the 10 Commandments ever in your life, then you are a liar or a blasphemer or an adulterer, etc. Is this true? Is that all it takes to mess up one time and you're branded a liar for the rest of your life? The Ten Commandments, are they commandments or suggestions? How did the Ten Commandments affect me? I live in the age of tablet computers, not stone tablets. What can I learn about the Ten Commandments? Let's learn together. So we have the Ten Commandments. What are some verses outside of the Ten Commandments? What else does the Bible say about the Ten Commandments? Exodus 24:12. Yahweh said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commands that I have written, that you may teach them." Exodus 31:8. When he finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moses the 2 tablets of the covenant, stone tablets, written with God's finger. Deuteronomy 5:22. Yahweh spoke these words to all your assembly on the mountain out of the middle of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a great voice. He added no more. He wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. Deuteronomy 11:18 through 21. Therefore you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul. You shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that your days and your children's days may be multiplied in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens above the earth. Matthew 5:27 to 28. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that everyone who gazes at a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart. Matthew 19:16 through 24. Behold, one came to him and said, "Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life?" He said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is, God. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments." He said to him, "Which ones?" Jesus said, "You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not offer false testimony. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." The young men said to him, "All these things I have observed from my youth. What do I still lack?" Jesus said to him, "If you want to be perfect, go, sell what you have, and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me." But when the young man heard this, he went away sad, for he was one who had great possessions. Jesus said to his disciples, "Most certainly I say to you, a rich man will enter into the kingdom of heaven with difficulty. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into God's kingdom." Matthew 22:34-40. But the Pharisees, when they heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, gathered themselves together. One of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him. "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. A second likewise is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments." Luke chapter 10, 25-29. Behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But he, desiring to justify himself, asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Romans 13, 8-10. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. For the commandments: you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other commandments there are all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love doesn't harm a neighbor. Love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. So, what exactly are the 10 Commandments? You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an idol. You shall not misuse the name of Yahweh your God. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet. And I was really struck by Romans 13, verses 8-11. Owe no man anything except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. For the commandments: you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. And whatever other commandments there are all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love doesn't harm a neighbor. Love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. So the Ten Commandments are all about love. Starts with loving God, and it goes to loving your neighbor as yourself. So love is the fulfillment of the law. And which one of us doesn't need more love? So here is our new modern expression. Am I my brother's keeper? And this is to not take responsibility for the actions or whereabouts of other people. This comes from Genesis 4:9. Yahweh said to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" He said, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" This is, of course, just after he killed his brother. So he really knew where his brother was. Was he trying to hide from God? Am I my brother's keeper?